नमस्कार। मैं अशोक व्यास हूँ और फादर्स डे आप देख रहे हैं। पिताजी का जो योगदान जीवन में रहा है उसको विशेष रूप से याद करने की एक परंपरा, उस परंपरा के इतिहास में नहीं जाते हुए इसका महत्व भावनात्मक रूप से भी है। एंड आई वुड से इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट इमोशनली एंड साइकोलॉजिकली बोथ वेज। Being grateful, of course, is something that makes us rich. And today I'm rich by the presence of a father and son duo. So both of them, I take the opportunity of welcoming Sachin Sharma and Dr. Rakesh Sharma ji. Sachin, you are on the mute and you came to speak. So let us begin with Sachin first, with the permission, of course, of your father. Uh, so you recollect being the youngest one in the siblings. How was it? You have the impression of your father more like a disciplinarian or someone who was very much loving?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And thank you very much, Mr. Vyas, for having us on the show. Growing up, I would say my dad was both of those things. So he was very much a disciplinarian, especially when it came to anything academically related or school, right? He wanted us to work very hard and study very hard and develop a good study ethic and work ethic ultimately. And I would say that I think he was very successful in doing that. So my two older brothers worked and studied very hard, and I did too. And I saw them as I grew up, and I had the benefit of watching them and see how they study and what they're doing in school and go to college and all of these things. Given that I'm the youngest one, as you pointed out, and my dad was always very, very stern, even with me as a third child. So he didn't get lazy with me, right? When it came to that, he made my oldest brother study hard, the middle one study hard, and me study hard as well. So he was always very, very good about that. And I'm very appreciative of that now, as are both of my brothers. All three of us, know what it is to study hard and work hard.
Yes,
And
I'll take a cue from here, Sachin. Yeah. Next up, he said he's very appreciative of it now. So what he's not saying is he was not appreciative of it then. I
That's
believe
right.
he had his moments where he felt what this man is doing. But anyway, let me come to you, next up. As parents, some of us are aware, conscious as to in what way we will help them grow. And there is a confused sort of a space or lack of clarity because we want a lot of things to become a part of their lives, being immigrants. In terms of finding a balance between making them culturally sensitive, when I say culturally sensitive, in terms of becoming aware of Indian culture, and then, of course, pursuing their career and sort of mixing and merging with the surroundings here. So, how was that in terms of you as a father, Dr. Akeshi?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vyas, for the invitation. And happy Father's Day to all your viewers. And as a father, I never forgot that I was a child once. So my father perhaps was also a little bit strict, like my son told me about me. When you're a teenager or growing up, you don't like your fathers. The reason being, you are experimenting different things, and you think you know everything. So your father can never be right. Only after you reach the age of 30, you realize that actually your father was right, and
Yeah. Sachin, you
that's
touch
what you
30?
appreciate.
Well, just to set the record straight, I always liked my father growing up, but yes, I definitely did not want to study. I was a very lazy person. Left to my own devices, I would rather play video games or something like that. But
No, so quickly before he continues, you touch 30 or not?
So he,
I'm 32 years old.
Okay,
Yes,
so he's right. He just once you are 30, you start appreciating. So I
that's
was
right.
just
It was
confirming.
long before that. I told him when I was 23 or something. Hey, Dad, you really you helped me out by making me work very hard as a kid.
Yeah. So
see,
continue.
as an immigrant or first generation people, whatever you want to call, we all come to more developed countries to work hard to be something. And most of the Indians who came to US perhaps had the same aspiration. And we also wanted our children to do better than we did. And that's the responsibility of fathers or parents. It's not just providing them with shelter, protection, or education, but as a father, you also are interested to helping your children to develop spiritually or spiritual development. And I think that's very, very important for us. It's not just the education, but you want to make sure that your children become good citizens of United States. And that's where I think my emphasis would be to your viewers that we all will make some money, some will make more, some will make little less than more. But in the end, we want our children to grow with good culture, good values, family values, and let our adopted country be proud of our children.
I think you have succeeded in that, knowing all your three sons. And I think many of Indian American parents have succeeded in guiding their sons and daughters in a way that they do well in their career and education. Most of us. But coming back to the emotional side of the bonding between a father and son, Sachin, when you don't have any sister, how that plays out in terms of your bonding with mother and father, and and sometimes you in your subconscious get a feeling that my mother is more like me, or she understands me more, or my father understands me more. You want to share something on that, and then I'll come to Dr. Rakesh ji also. Was there any conscious effort needed any time to sort of strengthen the bonds, and were there some activities that you remember collectively were undertaken?
Yeah, I would say, just to start out, as I was and still am very close with both of my parents, and I think I discuss different things with each of them, and that's probably very natural for many children, and all of us here are children. We all have parents, and so that we could probably all identify with that. I think, again, like I mentioned with my dad, he and I speak a lot about academics or work or growing up sports. I would play tennis with my dad. He enjoyed playing tennis and badminton and other things with us in the backyard, or out sort of at a court, or what the case might be. Went to a lot of movies with my father, so we bonded in many ways like that. With my mom, perhaps, yes, emotionally we might be a little bit closer to one another, but if there's something work related, investment related, large life decisions, I discuss both of those with both of my parents. But I think my dad and I end up seeing things pretty similarly when it comes to that. So we had a lot of experiences where a lot of similarities and great memories, right, with both of my parents. And those are some of the ways that I have interacted with each of them. And so it's different, right? Different things for with my mom and different things with my dad.
So, Dr. Each child has his own unique qualities, whether boy or girl. They have their distinct preferences, and as parent, you start identifying, understanding. You appreciate that, oh, Sachin is different than Kunal or the eldest one, and so there are certain issues about which you would probably have a, a special way of conveying or relating. So you want to say something about being aware about the distinct personality type of your son, a particular son. Yeah, and right now because Sachin is with us, so maybe say something about him.
Yeah, first of all, we are blessed with three boys, and me and my wife are extremely happy. Of course, she wish she also had a daughter that she could go shopping with. So that thing is a little bit annoying for her. But at the same time, now we have two daughter-in-laws, so she enjoys their companies. Uh, as far as children are concerned, they all have very different personalities. It's not just in my family. I think in
Everywhere.
most of the families, you will
Yes.
see that they grow up in the same household, but they have very different likings or preferences or their behavior, even education wise. My oldest son is a cardiologist, and middle one is a PhD, and the youngest one, Sachin, is in private equity or investments. So they all have different fields, just like their educational background is different, their personalities are very, very different. Sachin will think twice before spending $500 on a bottle of wine. But my middle son will drink the wine bottle first, and then he will ask, "How much do I have to pay?" So it's a very different personality. You're absolutely right. But that's how life should be. We are not going to be robots, and we should not be robots. You don't want all your children to be like army soldiers, walk in straight line and wear the same uniform and have same thinking. That's the fun of life. And I also want to say one more thing uh, to your audience. Of course, I'm a father for the last so many years. Before I got married, I was a child and I had a father. My father left us only 3 years ago. Excellent father. And what I do remember and what I do want to suggest to the audience is if you have an elderly father, please take some time out and have some trips with your father. Those memories will stay with you forever. I took my dad to Austria, Switzerland, and to Italy. And those things, are in my mind. And I'm so glad that we took that trip together. Of course, with my children, we have taken dozens of trips. But I do remember something very unique. Sachin and our middle son, three of us went to India together about 7 years ago. We went to Varanasi, we went to Darjeeling, we went to Himalayas.
Dharamshala.
Yeah, we went to where Dalai Lama lives. We hiked on
Dharamshala.
him outer Himalayas. So those kind of things, is a unique thing. And I would suggest to your audience, if you have time, please take your father or parents with you. Have a nice trip with them. Same thing. Uh, Go on a trip with your grown-up children, whether it's your son or daughter. We all take our small kids to wherever we want to, but once they are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, that's when the real fun is, when you all are grown up and they are
Yeah,
men or women,
let
and
me
have a
interrupt.
drink with them.
Absolutely. So so many families would not be comfortable reference of drink coming with son. That is again different families have different rates. Like I also come from that side, and of course I don't drink, so we kind of feel that drinking is bad. I mean,
No,
somewhere we
drink.
have that
You
in
can have
our
a.
mind.
You can drink Coca-Cola.
Yeah, then I just wanted to kind of specify this difference. Another thing is many times it is not easy for parents to have that amicable acceptance of their kids to go with them on trips, etc. Once they have grown up. Till they haven't grown up, they go easily. But I mean, so different families. So you are lucky or blessed in that sense that all of you took that trip. And I heard that about that trip from you earlier. So let me hear from Sachin the memories of that trip, and in particular because Dr. Sharma ji grew up in India more, so probably there was certain way in which he could relate to that place, which for you might have been different. And if you remember that, sort of having noticed that difference, like how he was responding to the ambience or any particular place or maybe temple or whatever. So over to your memory lane, India trip with family and especially with your brothers and father.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with my dad. I think all of these trips are very special. And this particular one was me and one of my brothers, Kunal, and my dad, the three of us. And it was great. And I think about that trip very often. And I tell everyone about it. We went to beautiful places. You know, Darjeeling is amazing. Dharamshala is amazing. We also went to very important religious places like Varanasi. And I think that those bring together a lot of things about what my dad finds important, which he wanted to show to us, right? India has beautiful areas which are not in the necessarily always in the big cities like Delhi or Bombay or you know, whatever the case might be. There are these other very, very important areas where there's a lot of beauty, a lot of history, the tea farms in Darjeeling and all of the history that's there. You know, going and taking those tours and seeing him, he loves history and especially Indian history, explaining a lot of these things to us, interacting with the guides, all of those kinds of things, as well as in Varanasi. My dad also has a lot of interest and passion in spirituality and in religion. And so that was a great place to go with him to see what he finds special and having some of these experiences with him. And so that was a very, very powerful trip, as was the other one that he referenced with my grandfather that we went on around Europe and Austria and Italy and these areas. Is very, very amazing to have, you know, multiple generations of us on this trip, right? I mean, my grandfather, my dad, even some of our aunts were there as well, and cousins, and then us. And so we had three, you know, generations on this trip. And that was a very, very special thing to be able to do. And so absolutely, you know, all of these things are great. And especially in India, those were some of the key things. And one thing that I think is very, very special that we did together was this hike that my dad mentioned. So we were in Dharamshala, which is on the outer Himalayas. You start to see very, very large, big peaks as you're hiking. We hiked for maybe 3-4 hours, and the terrain and the elevation is changing so much. The weather is changing so much. It started to rain extremely heavily for like 20 minutes, and we're on a mountainside. There's no shelter or anything like that. And the three of us were literally, you know, holding each other or putting someone go, you know, underneath this rock overhang and hide, you know, sort of stand there, hide there for 20 minutes while it's pouring rain on, you know, a dirt cliffside that's about this wide, right? So it was a very interesting bonding experience. The three of us, you know, potentially someone could have gotten very badly hurt, and you come out of that, and you know, it brings everybody much more close together. And obviously, you know, everybody was being intelligent. No one was doing anything stupid. No one got hurt. And now we can, you know, tell the story about this great experience where, you know, we had this powerful bonding experience where something potentially, you know, dangerous could have happened during this amazing hike that we had in India. And so, you know, to my dad's point, you can come away with these things with lifelong memories. And so I definitely agree that I would encourage anybody to go on these kinds of trips with their families.
You described it so well, that became vivid for me also. So thank you for sharing that. And
Absolutely.
I'm fortunate, Sachin, to have interviewed your grandfather also. And
Yes.
I remember in his 90s, he was still reciting Hanuman Chalisa every day. Now, Dr. Sharma, he must have been keen on having Sachin also learn Hanuman Chalisa. Were there some moments, or maybe he wanted them to come and then they were running away? You remember something like that happened? Dr.
Sure. You know, anyone who grew up in India and then they come to US, like my father came here after he retired, and then they see their grandchildren growing up, not just my kids, my sister's children's. We all lived in same, you know, neighborhood, like 2-3 miles from each other. It was fun for my kids and my nephews and nieces to have grandparents around. Same thing for grandparents. It was a treat to see their grandchildren growing up. Uh, and it was quite natural that this brings the bonding together and keeps the culture alive. And this is kind of a blessing when kids see or spend time with their grandparents. That's I think one extra bonus. Now, since we are talking about my dad who left 3 years ago, all of us. I just want to share his picture. His personality was, excellent. His memory was, I joke with people that his memory was as good as Albert Einstein's.
So
He knew everything.
let me just interrupt you to highlight the fact that right now you are connecting with us from your office, and the fact that you have your father's photograph in your office space is also important and significant in the context of talking about Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. So, how much he influenced you and the kind of bonding of love and respect that you have for him? It is, what should I say? You are blessed. We are blessed to learn about that from you, and you want to continue.
Sure. You know, as we all grew up in India, or you and me, so we didn't have that kind of closeness between fathers and sons or fathers and daughters because our culture was such. So we were more respectful, more restrained. Uh, but my kids are very different. You know, my son,
Yeah. So since we just have few minutes, I want
yeah,
to view on what you said. So, Sachin, when you are in the process of making important decisions, whether it is related to the career that you would opt for or the girl that you would get married to, so how much you felt restricted in making the decision, and was how was bringing it up to your father, or was he a friend like, or was he someone you felt, oh, why should I tell him? Why should I tell him? So,
No. I think my father and my mother have both been very helpful to me in these big times of important decisions. And the same thing for both of my brothers. If you interviewed any of the three of us, I think we would all say the same thing there. And these conversations can be difficult, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have them, right? I mean, I think in life, if you really want to be happy and you really want to be successful, you're going to have to learn how to have difficult conversations. And whether that's with your parent or with your boss or with your spouse or with your neighbor, it doesn't matter. That's something that you're going to have to do. And so, while in some of these conversations, like especially in career, my dad is a doctor. Multiple of his siblings are doctors. His friends are doctors. This is the industry that he understands. When, for me, I'm not a doctor. I'm not in medicine, and so a lot of the career choices I have made over the last 10 years, my dad might not have understood all of them. But he was always supportive, or he said, okay, maybe you should take this person's opinion because I'm not an expert on what you're asking me about. Or sometimes maybe he even disagreed. There have been a job or two that I've taken that he thought weren't good jobs, but it really did help my career. And I had a lot of confidence in that. So I think you have to go to your parents, you have to have these conversations, even if they're difficult. You have to listen to what they have to say. And sometimes you'll end up doing something that is against what they're telling you. And it's not because they're being mean or because you're trying to be mean. It's just you have a difference of opinion. At the end of the day, you have to live your life. You're the one who's in charge of your life. You have to do what you think is right. But I would encourage everybody to have these opinions and lean on their parents because they have the benefit of having the experience, right? Your parents are always older than you, 20, 30, 40 years older than you. And they're going to have a lot more experience. And so you should ask them these questions because they probably have some point of view that's going to be helpful in some way.
So I must say, Sachin, you articulate your thoughts so clearly, and the suggestion of being open to have difficult conversations is also very important, and that is also very difficult for many people. They just want to keep it under the carpet.
Sure.
I mean, I would put myself also in that category. Many times I avoid having difficult conversations. But
Sure.
coming back to both of you, and since just 2-3 minutes left, very briefly, Dr. Sharma, if you pick three important life lessons or principles of life, let's say bullet point, which you picked up from your father.
Sure. Number one, work hard. Number two, make money in very ethical way. And number three, keep your family very, very close.
So now, Sachin, follow the same brevity principle.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and share three principles. Don't repeat what he said.
Actually, yeah, I know they're going to be very similar. I was actually thinking about this earlier. I mean, the first one is really to work hard. That is a clear thing that I picked up from my dad, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation. The second one, I was going to say, outside of making money, but be a very fair person. My dad is he places a big importance on fairness, and so do I. And I think that's how you treat people. That's how you do anything, whether it's making money or not making money. Be a fair and honest person. And then the third one that I would say is about, being a family-centric person and a relationship-centric person to help people, to do everything you can. My dad's a very charitable person, as you know, Mr. Vyas. And so, I've taken a lot from that of how can I help people in various ways. And that's something that's very important to me that I've learned from my dad.
Wonderful. I would agree with both of you. And also, both of you talking to me is also a sort of a help. Not just to me, but to many people. When you have meaningful conversation like this, it somewhere triggers something in you. And if the idea of being helpful is important, and it starts playing in somebody's life, then that is a big success for this conversation. But more than that, this is a celebration of the bond that you have with your father, and which all of us have, which is unique, special, significant, and worth being grateful for. So, thanking Dr. Rakesh Sharma and Sachin ji for joining us, and very special Happy Father's Day to you, especially, and of course to
Thank you.
Dakshan and to all our viewers.
Happy Father's Day to both of you and everyone else.
And Mr. Vyas, happy Father's Day to you and to your audience and all the viewers.
So on that note,